for the introduction, and I'm really humbled. It's my privilege to be speaking today, and I must thank Mr. Saxena to, work this up. He brought this up, and I could not say no. Of course, I had been looking for this opportunity for a while, and I must, as a starting note, must share the fact that I was I was at Amity recently, possibly in the month of December, when we were looking at the placement. I've always had faith with the students who come out of Amity University, and I've had some relationship with Amity Noida actually. At HCL, we had come down to Amity and set up meeting with the people, and we finally took people to join us at HCL. I personally wanted to keep that tradition going, and that's how we were there at Amity in December, if I'm not wrong. It was overwhelming to meet up with this with the final year students. I must say, and I must confess this in the webinar today, and I'm not just doing it to flatter this piece, but we had a number to pick up in terms of intake of legal people who pass out, the lawyers who pass out every year. And we also went to National Law University in Delhi, and Mohali and Raipur and wherever. But believe in me, I personally found the students coming out really very nice, very good. And in fact, we added a person when by the time we closed the numbers with Amity. And so that was overwhelming. And therefore, I find it even more a bigger privilege to be speaking today. The idea also to speak today is the fact that, there was some learning and there was some takeaway from my meeting, and rather two meetings that I had with the wonderful students of the fifth year that we met during the process. And I thought it's important that for people to understand the streams of opportunities that exist for people who pass out the integrated law course or the 3-year law course, and what are the career options. I thought that's important because I personally thought there was some amount of not so clarity about role for lawyers in companies, in corporates. So while the students had a beautiful understanding about career opportunities with law firms, but I personally thought it's important that I bring to the universities the fact that how wonderful it is for an in-house counsel role with corporates. And there is where I would like to start my conversation. And then we'll move slowly to the challenges part, because the challenges we know are evolving, and with every day pass by, we don't know. Yesterday we thought of a situation, and the next day is an even more difficult situation. So things don't seem to be improving. But if you allow me, I will like to just put up a share a presentation. This will be the initial slides will concentrate on the opportunities in the in-house side, and what lawyers have in store, and how wonderful and exciting it can be, for lawyers and the various fields that they have. And then we talk about how we address them and the challenges that are contemporary to us. So I mean, that's a message, but I think I'll just quickly dwell onto the main part. And it's important that we talk about the in-house counsel, and I want to bring this up for the reason that I'm talking from a industry and a community perspective. It's important for the young lawyers to understand what is it that is in store for them when companies reach out to them. Companies could be as large as Reliance, Mahindra, Tatas, and it could be startups and mid-sized companies as well. To sum up, and I will start with the sum up first, and then we'll move this slowly. This is an opportunity to work with the law firm within the company. So I always call myself, my team of lawyers as a mini law firm, which works on all the practice areas. And understanding this is important, because I think that's what will kind of bring out what are the challenges in store and what are the opportunities for lawyers in an in-house position. So as I started, um, the in-house law team or in-house counsel team is the law firm of the company. So it may not be necessarily the Amarchands or the Khaitans or the Kochar of the companies, but we are team of lawyers who are one, strategists, two, enablers, and three, the protectionists to the organization. So what we do is we are the advisors who sift through all the laws, the regulations, restrictions, and compliances, and ensure that the company is always on the right path. Right path would mean we are always in compliance to the law. I'm just quickly going to touch this piece. And as corporate counsels, we work for the organization, and we then take care of all the legal proceedings that the company may encounter during the operations. We don't work for a variety of clients. We work for a single company. So therefore, our talent, our energies are more focused. We work to understand the business. So for example, as an IT organization, I need to first understand the working of an IT organization. What is a technology? What is it that, we keep hearing technology, we hear about cloud, we hear about, these platforms, all of that. So as lawyers in-house, we kind of get to understand what is the business that my corporation is. For example, at Geo, you will understand the whole working about the telecom space. And so is when you are, say, for example, with an FMCG like an Hindustan Lever, you will understand the whole thing about manufacturing process and so on and so forth. And there is where we devote our talent and energy to the corporate employer who kind of the organization that we work for. And with the ultimate objective that we protect the organization, one, and two, provide legal services to the company dedicatedly. And I think here is where we will kind of slowly, gradually enter into the role that we've been discharging and what we see as a role and the challenges to come forward. Broad responsibilities, and I've just kind of summed it up in the fact that, the broad responsibilities that as an in-house counsel we carry is one, and you will see, I'm sure with the experience of the young people who are currently undergoing education or who are graduating in the times to come, you must have gone for your internships, and you must have gone to the law firms to understand what do they do. Some would have been attached to, say, for example, the litigation team. Some of you may have got the opportunity to work with the IPR section. Some, say, for example, with the corporate teams, FERA, FEMA, Companies Act, etc. So what does an in-house counsel do? And I'm bringing this and I'm trying to make it look very rosy for the fact that it is really rosy, and therefore it's an opportunity. So on the one hand, the one role that a lawyer in-house plays, and of course that could be a practice area for a law firm, or that's an equivalent of a practice area of a law firm, is negotiating, writing, executing contracts and legal documentation. So could be multiple scenarios. I am negotiating a contract, say for example with a bank who wants to outsource work to me, and that's my business contract. It could be, say for example, I'm a company engaged in the business of cars, etc. So I could be working on contracts for supply of parts, for supply of technology, real estate, and so on. So there will be a whole lot of agreements that come for review. These will be, of course, on the customer side, on the vendor side, and so on. The second side of work that is a work area, I would call it as a bucket area, is the, there are deals which will happen. So there will be big deals which come with their own set of nuances. There could be mergers and acquisitions. So you would have been hearing X company acquired a Y company, it picked up stake, there was a slump sale, there was a equities acquisition, cash deal, stock deal, multiple types of deals which go on. There are reorganizations, there are sale of companies, sale of assets, whole lots of areas around that. Intellectual property, as we know, is a bucket. So you will see specialized law firms doing that service, but as in-house counsels, we take up issues around trademarking, patents, copywriting, trade designs, trade secrets, anything and everything that concerns an organization. So for a Coca-Cola, it could be a trade secret protection. For companies on the IT side, there may be a lot of work around trademarks, on patents and copyrights. For companies in the marketing space and so on, the lawyers may have an opportunity to work on trademarking space and multiple stuff. Litigation, of course, is always an exciting area for all the lawyers who pass out. So one of the areas that we all touch upon is litigation, disputes, and that concerns all of us. So that's another bucket of work, and I'm maybe skipping some pieces also. A lot of stuff goes around training, researching, and of course regulatory compliances is a big thing, and it's really something which is big, which is there in a bigger way now. We all know of company law compliances, but we also know of the regulatory space that industries may have to work in. So for example, a telecom operator may work with the telecom regulator, the banks under RBI and others, the insurance company under IRDA, or and so on and so forth. So all of that piece is a big work, a chunk of legal work that we are exposed to and we enjoy doing. And we enjoy doing, we continue to enjoy doing, and I'm sure post COVID again, we will continue to do this. Maybe styles will change, but I suppose this will always remain. Some areas that we've kind of looked at and maybe not included is the fact around employment law, and I think that's a very important piece of work. And I've not touched it upon here, and I think we'll see it at later slides, primarily because that's a challenging area in the times to come. We are entering, as we know, tough times. We know there are already issues about employees. Payment of wages and payment of salaries to employees. We are facing issues of terminating employees and so on and so forth. These were traditional issues; they were always there, but I think these are challenging times, and so therefore these will be big challenging pieces that we will have to encounter as we move forward. And I'll touch that as we move forward. So I think COVID-19, nothing more to say. I think these are tough times. These are lockdown times. And we've seen, we saw this Disaster Management Act being applied as we entered into this phase of, initial phase of COVID-19, understanding the fact that, this is a temporary thing and, this is a disaster situation. We will overcome it in a short period of time. So we moved in a particular manner, but it seems like it's not working. Not in the sense that the desired results are not up to the mark, but I think it's not working for a fact that the temporary problem, it was thought to be a temporary problem, but it doesn't seem like soon ending, and so therefore the world has to now live and has to now agree to or to understand to work in a different format. Our eating habits, our social habits, our lifestyles, everything will change. And here is where I will just kind of want to also say that the application of law, the interpretation of law will change substantially. We've drafted laws with a proper with a particular understanding. We thought the world exists in a particular manner, and that's how we drafted laws, and that's how the courts have been interpreting laws. But with the rapid change, and with the offices coming into home, with confinement situations, with complex situations in terms of data being exposed, we really don't know what is technology up to, what are the what are the pitfalls and what are the risks, etc., in terms of these new styles of working, and therefore uh, there will be newer challenges. I mean, just in the morning, I was speaking with somebody, and somebody shared a point in the sense that we don't know, we may be just very soon be entering into a phase of, God forbid, but a phase of uh, you know data corruption, uh, bombardment, in terms of cyber hacking, and so on. So we really don't know what are we moving towards. So therefore, as we said, it is pandemic times. We don't know what we are into at this point in time, and with each passing day, things are getting complicated, and so is the world, and so will be this legal area of work move towards. I mean, the world is trying to adjust to newer ways of thinking. The companies are also trying to adjust into how uh, they will now, run the businesses. And one of the things that we saw recently was the work from home stuff. I think that is something that you would have seen, particularly, for example, the university having taken a lot of education to your homes, and similarly, I think the IT space and the lot of industries have actually moved to home, and that's a newer style of working, and therefore it comes with its own associated risks. So what's changing, and what are the challenges that we are looking at? So as I stated, the legal field is not changing. The laws remain the same. The legal services to the organization will continue the way that it continues. Be it the external law firms or the internal legal department, they will continue to cater to the legal requirements, the ones that I just stated in my initial slides. But what is also going to change is a lot of new question areas, interpretation, and other areas which are coming to the table of the legal department, and of course then moving to the law firms also in terms of clarifications and so on. What it also means is a traditionally owned the works which were traditionally owned by general counsel, or the legal department, which were done in a very stereotyped manner, are changing, because the questions are changing, because the areas of operation will change, and providing resolution um, is going to be challenging, because we've not tested these situations. Um, we are talking of managing remote teams. We are talking of reputational financial damages which will get caused. Um, and so therefore, the GC or the internal departments have a wonderful opportunity. Please don't take it in a positive sense, but I mean, I'm just saying from an opportunity perspective in terms of learning and so on. I know it's difficult times, and we are not here to talk about opportunities per se, but what I mean to say is there will be newer stuff which is going to come to lawyers, and there will be challenging times. So I think the first thing that we saw, and I'm sure all of us has touched, and as Mr. Banopadhyay pointed out, we would have seen lawyers, law firms, experts from the law firms having come and spoken about force majeure. And, we all, this is one area which kind of, and I can share this to you on a very personal note. I have been running big teams, and one of the larger practices in all the law firms and including in the legal departments is contracting group. And for some reasons, force majeure and certain clauses have always been thought to have been, just those residual clauses that just existed in a document. We never gave them the due importance. We were always concentrated about, say, for example, the limitation of liability and termination and scope of work, and the intellectual property and so on, liquidated damages and so on. But somehow we never paid that much attention to force majeure, and all of a sudden we see situation uh, where the only thing that is being talked about is force majeure. Um, and so therefore, one of the biggest challenge that I see personally, and then all these companies are now going through is, are we into I mean, since we are into a force majeure situation, it is a pandemic. It is not a pandemic that could have been envisaged when we wrote our contracts or the force majeure clause. We always thought a force majeure would be an act of God, but limited to a place. Say, for example, famine in a region, or a flood in a particular region, or say, for example, a ship, going into the ocean waters, and so on. So we always thought it in of a particular magnitude. But here is a situation. This is a globally prevalent pandemic. The entire 190 or whatever, 150, 60, 70, 80 countries are suffering. Almost the entire world is in lockdown. And it's a force majeure situation for buyers, for suppliers, for employees. So it's all prevalent in all formats. So therefore, the biggest challenge that we see, and that is going to be for a while that we have, is there will be a lot of discussion. There will be a lot of claims and counterclaims on the fact that we had a force majeure situation, hoping that this situation tides away, and that the suspension of contract for the period that it was um, it becomes live. The contract again becomes operational. So I particularly see a lot of claims and counterclaims coming from the customer, from the vendor sides, and from the on the corporates or by the corporates. And there will be a huge lot of work or an effort which will go off the lawyer of all lawyers, be working in the in-house teams or you work in law firms, spending time in understanding what failed, what is, I mean, did it really fail, in the sense that and I'm raising this point for the fact that we know that there are essential services which are functional. There are a whole series of circulars and guidelines of the government of India, some of them which are contrary and maybe confusing and contradictory to the fact that some allow, say for example, I'll take this example of IT industry, for example. You would have seen in a lot of advisories saying that IT services are essential services, and people who work in the IT space are essential services. So you are services of the type of utilities, power, electricity, water, etc. And therefore, you are allowed to operate. Of course, you've been asked to scale down your operation and largely work from home, but you've been allowed to work. So in that situation, will it be appropriate to say, will it be appropriate to invoke a force majeure? Should you do it or should you not do it? What if you do it, or what if you not do it? These will be questions which will go on for the next 2, 3, 5 years. There will be huge claims, as I stated, and the law will settle over a period of time. I mean, I'm just as an example. For example, I'm servicing a bank, for example, and IT services for banks are essential services, so as to say, in terms of circular. But actually, at the ground level, the police guys never allowed you to come out of your homes. You were never allowed to reach the offices. So in those situations, you actually were disabled to work. So that's a force majeure. But still, you were delivering to the extent by working from home. So therefore, I did not invoke force majeure. But having not invoked force majeure, when the times will be good, things will settle, say 5, 6 months, whatever period of time, the customer will not shy away from suing for the fact, applying damages for the fact that no, it wasn't a force majeure situation. So and a lot of things and a lot of the miseries that we've gone through would have been forgotten. So how the law will evolve, I see that as a very big challenge. The second space that I personally see, and I think for the lawyer community wherever we work, is going to be a lot of contracts will now be written or renegotiated in the way that they were never thought about. We've been writing contracts in simple terms, and we've been following a traditional approach. The contracts will really need renegotiation. I can personally say, without naming, we are working on at least about 10 to 15 contracts being renegotiated on a daily basis. So that's a huge piece of work which is already on and which will flow for months to come. So the entire contracting space is an opportunity from a learning perspective, from a newer areas of work that we will do. But of course, it's going to be challenging times. Mergers and acquisitions, is going to be another one big area. And you would already seen, the Indian government guideline on, stopping the neighboring countries to bring about FDIs, etc. So I mean, that's just a piece of work that we see, but there will be a lot of work around public policy and stuff like that. So M&A will be a big time. There will be opportunities, and you've already seen a deal of the Facebook and Geo, which got concluded recently. So there will be opportunities, but at the same time, it will come in its own form with companies going bankrupt, with companies changing lines of businesses and so on. So that's a big challenging area for us. We've always been looking insurance as insurance covers to kind of cover us for multiple aspects. The whole gambit of approach on insurance policies is out for a change. Your present insurance policies will not cover you for this period. The act of gods, as we know, will get you out and not get you any coverages in most of the situations, unless the policy is horribly written and the fact that you can maybe make some advantage out of it. But in all situations, so there will be a new whole set of insurance policy, the way they are written and how kind of we're going to look at this. And the last two areas that we will see a lot of stuff happening and a lot of action happening and a lot of challenging times is going to be around the data breach stuff. It's my personal view that the way we've shifted offices to homes, we've just to kind of simplify the systems, the environment has just been the secure environments and the secure systems within the office have kind of got collapsed and moved to homes and moved to alternate places. We actually don't know of the exposure that we carry today. We would all read about the GDPRs and the the safe harbors and the data protection law in India and a lot of things coming. I mean, of course, but we actually don't know where we are at this point in time. How secure is the data? Where exactly it is being breached? Will there be mass scale? I'm sure you read about a recent data breach in one of the IT companies. So there are these typical times, and how the law will evolve and how these challenges will be met is something I can't say at this point in time. And lastly, and most importantly for me, is the HR and the employment laws. I think there'll be challenging times, how these laws will be interpreted. We've been looking at HR laws, be it the payment of wages, to the ID Act, to the layoffs, retrenchments, and many other things. I think we are into difficult times. We all know we'll have to save organizations, and enough to save the organization, we'll have to go for haircut in terms of reducing the manpower, reducing the pay. But how do we do that? And once we do that, what are the legal implications? I'm sure the students who are here, they very well know. They would have already been exposed to the various labor laws and the legislations that exist today. But more importantly, there is an interpretation that has been given by the high courts and by the Supreme Courts, in terms of how do you change how do you reduce salaries, how do you handle redundancies, etc. But would the same law and would the same interpretation apply in these given times or the times to follow is something which is going to be a big challenge. And we'll probably have to kind of leave emotions aside and maybe look at laws not just from the way they are written, but maybe also from a fact that for a business continuity, we'll have to kind of look at evolving laws. So one this is going to be a big time stuff to my mind. So I think I just touched it upon, but I will kind of just and that's subheads that we kind of created. So A, as I stated, is about COVID-19 and the business contracts. So we talked about force majeure. What is force majeure, and should we be invoking it? Should we not be invoking it? What are the ramifications of invoking versus not invoking? And what can financial inability to perform the contract amount to force majeure? Are you protected? I mean, did you really apply the BCP Did you take alternate means to kind of continue to try to perform the contract, and so on and so forth? These will all be questions which are going to come. So the first head that I just kind of narrated was about COVID-19 and the business contract. So that's the first challenge that I kind of explained. And so therefore, these are the questions to which we will have to find answers. Force majeure, we all know, is a situation which is of a temporary nature, because then it is followed by termination of a contract. So how much is of a time if it is not mentioned in a contract? What should be a reasonable period? What in contracts where time is of the essence? And so still, the force majeure exists and subsists. So what is the relevance of such contracts? What happens to the contracts on the supplier side? And so on. So I think that's a big task, as I mentioned, on the business contract side. I think, and the risks related there too. So I think these are just some steps and some numbers that I've tried to, some bullets that I've tried to put in terms of how we see ourselves as legal professionals working for the next 6 months to a year's time. I think it's or maybe a longer period of time. I don't know. Very difficult to kind of predict at this point in time. The HR area, which is COVID-19 and the employees, this is a challenging area. We are looking at policies to work from home. We are talking of reduction in pay. We are talking of layoffs. We are talking of terminations. We also have situation where there are infected employees. There are ill employees. There are people dying out of it. So the benefits to be given and so on. I mean, benefits means, the statutory benefits to be extended. So I think these are big time areas, and we are going to be in serious challenges for the next 1 to 2 years time, because the economic, of course, it will depend on how the economic conditions improve, but we've seen how it's happening, particularly in sectors like, say, for example, in aviation, hospitality, which don't see returning to normalcy for many, many years, if you ask me. I'm sure the participants here can, if we were to just raise our hands, who would want to be into a hotel? How would you feel safe to be going to a resort, even if the times, I mean, in the absence of a vaccine or a proper medication? I don't think this fear psychosis is just not going away. So I think a lot of industries are going to have tough times. We just narrated some of them. Real estate is in a shape. So employees working in these organizations and the labor laws, and how do we tackle these situations and the litigations that will follow, particularly the affected people? How does it go? We would have seen, Indigo reducing, and so did, I think, SpiceJet and others airlines, and all of that. I think that's going to be a big challenging time. We're talking of business continuity. So that's the third challenge. What is it that we have as an option? How do we keep the business running? And so therefore, the legal departments particularly are going to play a very important strategic role in terms of, how do we reorganize our businesses? How do we monetize assets? How do we work closely with the other functions in terms of keeping the business alive and afloat? Data privacy, I think I've spoken much on it already. We all know, data is the future. The old days are over. It's all about data now. I mean, how do we protect the data? There are very tough regimes. I can share some examples. I'm sure we've all gone through the fact that, some of our banks have discontinued telebanking services, for example. We would have seen, they're saying that these services are suspended. So what does it mean? It means, the BPO guys are not working at this point in time. The data is not allowed to be taken away to the homes. But there are organizations which are compromising. There is a lot of data of Europe and US, which currently resides in India because of the IT workforce that we have, the huge workforce that we have. So how are we protecting data? How is it that it's not going to be used, misused, abused? And big time claims will follow in terms if you're not going to be able to keep it safe, of course, besides the other ways by which the data may be corrupted or kind of be stolen and so on. Insurance policies, as I stated, how do we kind of protect ourselves in the future? Will the current insurance policies in the way that they exist, we all have policies, so there are guidelines coming, and people talking about it here and there. And the F point is an important point. I think that's something that is going to be an economic consequence of companies going insolvent. We will soon see this, and in fact, we are already seeing some of the aviation sectors companies. We've seen that in Australia. We've seen that in Europe. Subjecting themselves to insolvency or going into reorganization. I'm sure we all have exposure about the bankruptcy code recently introduced in 2016 in India. This, of course, follows from the codes which already exist in US and Europe, and who have kind of standardized it over a period of time. I can personally say we've seen 2007, 2008, 2009 period when you had these financial companies in a lot of them going bankrupt, etc. So we all know the lenders have to take haircut and so on. So those going to be a big time challenge for us. It's going to be an area where a lot of focus will go, especially with companies being in financial distress, but still wanting to either keep alive or wanting to reorganize and come out of it. So I think that's a big work for lawyers to come in. Here is a summation of the essential things for all legal departments, and when I say legal departments, I mean maybe the mini law firms within the corporates to kind of look at and how to handle these challenges. And I think it just kind of is self-explanatory in the way it is. How do we kind of address this? So how is the business continuity maintained? How are the business still run? How do we take care of our suppliers and customers? And how do we take care of our employees? I think this is just a summary of a plan that we've kind of said should be in place, and these are challenging times. That's it from my side. Thank you so much, and I leave it. I hope my session made some sense. I know there are some negative sides to this. There are quite a negative stuff that we kind of raised, but I think this is reality.
Thank you very much, Vinitji. Thank you. Now, you actually view the canvas of the responsibility of the in-house counsel. Started with that in responsibility in-house counseling, and the way the situation are changing, and the law will remain the same, but interpretation of the law and understanding of the law is going to see a drastic change. There is going to be the post-mature clauses applicable, which will result to many of the dimensions like assessing and giving the and advising the business leader in terms of the managing the risk associated with the new supply relationship. This is going to be a very difficult time in terms of participating in contingency planning. Then how do you really negotiate? Then procuring new or raising new insurance policies. Then data privacy, data protections, HR issues. I mean, these are the major issues that we are going to see, including the force majeure of the contract and so on and so forth. So the demand of the lawyer, demand of our law graduates under the COVID-19 is going to be immense.
True.
This is the message that you are trying to give it to our students, that those students who will be passing out now, the type of challenges they are going to face, the type of solutions they must bring in. I mean, it's going to be huge in demand. So you have covered everything as an in-house counselor, as a recruiter, and I think students have been immensely benefited. Now, they have raised many questions. If you permit me, I'll take one by one.
Sure.
Is there any pre-required specific knowledge or specialized courses that the enterprises look for while hiring in-house counsels?
So not really. I think I think we generally look at people with the. I can't discuss my hiring strategy, but surely I think it's the college that we look at. We generally look at students, and I think we are always keen to understand their areas of interest. It would be wrong to
But
expect specialization.
Sorry for the interruption. At the beginning of your lecture, you said that you went to different NLUs, you different to different colleges, but when you came to Amity Law School, and you say that students are very good. Now, when say they are very good, what are the dimensions? Essentially, you must be looking at. I mean, that's the question that may be aiming at it, actually.
No, I understand, but maybe I may not have a handy answer here exactly. And it's a lot of times, Mr. Banapadhyay, you do a relative ranking. It's not that they were not good either, but I think it's when you are hiring freshers, the factors are very different. I think it's about adaptability, it's about enthusiasm, it's about spontaneous answers to your questions. There are typical situations asked, and how quickly the students kind of come back. How simple do they make it look like? I think there are multiple things that go into it, and my view came from a fact that when compared at Amity versus others, so this was surely on a higher side. So that's what I meant basically, because yeah, and also you would have seen we did psychometric testing and group discussions also. So I'm sure the students did well there as well. These were some legal topics or semi-legal topics, but surely the kids performed well there. So I think it was a summation of psychometric testing to group discussions to personal talking, and how spontaneously they would come back with an answer and so on. So there were multiple steps to the whole process. And maybe to answer the first question, and I think this continues to be reflecting in front of me, is how do we look at specialization, etc. At the campus level, we just leave it to the students. We kind of hear their interest. We kind of see them. Somebody who's talking about IPR, for example, I see this question on IPR. I would then be keen to understand the kind of internships that he's done. Of course, we can't see him having done an LLM or some very specialized course, but we surely want to see him. We kind of test him on the internships that he did. Did it? So is there no mismatch in the sense that his internship, say for example, was with an employment law firm, and the kid talks and the student talks about a great interest in IPR? I mean, there is a mismatch. So when we hire, or when the corporates and even the law firms, when they hire, they surely evaluate candidates on the basis of their interest, what they have done to pursue some qualifications along with their LLB, and how did they take up their internships. And that's the only criteria that is looked into when kind of taking them into a particular department. So, and I see this, and I can also further maybe add also, since I talked about buckets in the legal department, so there are multiple subsets. So just like a law firm has practice areas, say example, dispute resolution, IPR, and so on, same exists in the companies. So for example, Tata's may have a company which is may have a legal department with lawyers dedicated to, say for example, immigration laws, employment laws, IPRs, and so on and so forth. So there is where we kind of look at the interest of campus hires and even the laterals, and there is how we kind of place them and groom them and let them grow in the department, and then give them the flexibility to look beyond as well. So that's sum total of maybe if I
says very rightly said, because everything is relative. You see, the students are getting their grades; they are also getting relative.
Yes, yes.
So we all the time look at them in a relative scale. I think very rightly said. Now taking it further, sir, COVID is a big threat, but don't you think that this is the time to use it as an opportunity?
Absolutely. And there will be opportunities, I'm sure. You would have seen already in terms of, I mean, I see Reliance 9.9% stake acquisition by Facebook as an opportunity.
Yes.
They see synergies. So that's what happened. You will see so much of opportunities come in now. There will be distressed assets which will be on sale. There will be consolidations. There will be, you know, and when I started on my the presentation, what I meant was the way of working businesses will change. You will see companies transforming or doing business in a very different way. I know TCS, say for example, changed the statement to say the statement that they made the other day about moving 75% workforce to work from home, which of course will have ramifications in terms of the whole real estate industry failing and many other things which will be negative things. But I'm sure there are positive things in terms of opportunities that will get created. There will be so much of work which will happen on technology laws. You will see so much of new innovation happening. So the lawyers particularly will need to now upgrade. They will have to upskill. And I think we lawyers have been doing that. I'm sure the participants here will agree. We've seen times, for example, we've seen, for example, there were FERA days. Then we had the FEMA, which came in. Similarly, the Competition Act, which has come and has moved further. We've seen Consumer Act changing drastically. We've seen Arbitration Act transform from the way it existed to newer times. And so is environmental laws which have come into play now, and therefore a lot of stuff will happen, and these are opportunities. I think we will see a lot of new laws being written or new laws being interpreted, and therefore this will open up a lot of areas, say on the contracting side, on technology law sides, on M&A sides for we lawyers, and therefore these are opportunities. These will be opportunities. Yes.
Now it is directly addressing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Does in-house counsel also represent their concerned firms, that is, handle the litigation of the firm apart from assisting the firms with respect to its business?
Honestly, Mr. Banapatha, I didn't understand the question.
Does in-house counsels also represent their concerned firms, that is, handle the litigation of the firm apart from assisting the firms with respect to its business?
Okay, so I think let me just clarify. The in-house counsels do not have a certificate to practice in the courts. So we are like, our license to that extent is suspended or it is put in abeyance. So we cannot make a court appearance by wearing the coat and the jacket, etc. So what we do at best is, and what we do for our corporation is, we are part of. We are part of creating the pleadings, that is the legal documents. We are part of the discovery process, collating documentation and all of that stuff. We do the research and all of it. And then the representation part before the court, etc., is done by the external counsels, where again we work very closely. So it's not it's not like, like a post office of file having been handed over and that's it. It's like working hand in hand, standing shoulder to shoulder, and standing as authorized representatives in the court along with the the external counsel who's got a wakalatnama to represent. So to technically we do not argue in the court, but we are part of the entire other process in terms of standing and working hand to hand with the law firms.
Now, from the legal perspective, what do you think should the HR do in such a situation?
I think I raised this point. Maybe I think I missed that slide. As I stated, I think there will be demand for more lawyers, even in the in-house side, unless you are part of an industry which is just in the downside, where the company will not survive or the industry will not survive. But for all other reasons, I think there is an upside to it, and so therefore we see it as positive, and I'm sure there will be an upside in terms of resources and the resources numbers growing.
Is it as advisable to invest in the stock market?
I don't know if it has bottomed out already. Difficult to say at this point in time. But then, we all keep hearing. I think it's the time probably has come to, breaking it into smaller parts and kind of going ahead. So if there is 100 rupees at hand, I think time has come to kind of spend the 10 or 10 to 15 already. I think we always believe in the fact that, stock market is not a single day transaction. It has to be spread over a period of time. So I think it's considerably bottomed out. There are some positive news, especially coming from, Australia and some European countries. So I think and we all know it's stock market is not just about numbers and strength of the organization. It is also about sentiments. So the sentiments will pull it up, to my mind, and there is already some indication. So why not spend 10 out of the 100 and retain the 90?